Hey folks, it's Kathleen. I just wanted to talk you through the instructions for this activity for week 3. First, I want you to select a television show that you're considering using for your show project. So hopefully you've been thinking about this. This doesn't have to be your final selection, but it should be a show you're somewhat familiar with or interested in learning more about. You should have seen at least one episode of it. Second, I want you to identify and be able to define the show's protagonists, antagonists, and narrative structure. Make sure you've read the chapter 2 and understand what these things mean and can be able to talk about them and think about them in terms of the show you want to talk about. So third, I want you to click the link below to answer the questions about the show. And I have 2 links, one that shows you what the questions are, and then the second link you can actually go and submit them. It's set up like a quiz, but it's not actually a quiz. It will be graded in your activity portion of the gradebook. So when you feel you've answered the questions to the best of your ability, you can click submit. So here's what the questions look like. I just want to show you and talk you through them. So if you click on this link, this is what you'll see. Read and prepare these questions, then go back to the activity description to click the link to submit your responses, or you can click here. I have a link here to go and submit them in the quiz format. First, what's the name of the show? That's obvious. Is the show a series or a serial? Make sure you've thought about that and can answer that question. Describe as best you can who the protagonist is in the show, using descriptions such as his or her age, occupation, the circumstances in which he or she lives, like, they work in a crowded hospital and they're always busy, something like that. If there are multiple protagonists, and just so you know, serials tend to have more than one protagonist, name up to 3 and define how they're different from each other in those categories: age, occupation, and circumstances. 4, describe as best you can who the antagonist is in the show, using descriptions such as, again, age, occupation, and circumstances. So make sure you're looking up the definition between protagonist and antagonist, and you can say who they are. And again, if there's multiple antagonists, name up to 3 and define how they're different from each other. Define as best you can an enigma of the show. Put it in the form of a question. Remember, enigma is like a mystery. Will this ever happen? So here's some examples. A series enigma for How I Met Your Mother could be defined as, will Ted ever be able to convey to his kids the profound meaning of his relationship? So that's kind of an enigma that occurs every single episode. The serial enigma tends to be a little bit more specific. So in Arrested Development, for example, will George Bluth ever be convicted of his crimes? Or will George, Michael, and Maybe ever act on their feelings? These are ongoing enigmas that occur and are kind of, developed sometimes, and sometimes they're not. So number 6, define as best you can how exposition is usually dealt with at the beginning of each episode of this show. So think about that. How do people catch up to what happened in the previous show? If you're a viewer who hasn't seen previous episodes, how does the show help you catch up? Think about that. Your answer should include a description of how much background is presented at the beginning of each episode and how the new episode fits into the overall enigma of the show. Okay. So number 7, define how climax and resolution are usually dealt with in each episode of the show. And I really encourage you, again, to read through the chapter examples, look at the video clips I provided in the lecture. It gives you really solid examples of what these are. Give examples from a specific episode of the show as to how the climax and resolution, or lack of resolution, was presented. So you will have to have seen at least one episode and be able to describe what happened, what you would define as the climax of the scene of the episode, and what the resolution was and how it ended when the credits rolled. So for example, is each episode's conflict or enigma resolved? Is there a climactic moment that happens right before the credits roll? Those are some questions to ask yourself. Where was the climax at, and how was the resolution handled before the commercial break? So hopefully this helps you understand what I'm expecting in this assignment, and good luck.